So I've seen these things happen. It turns out that more and more of it is happening. In fact, there's data that suggests that over the last, I don't have the exact number of years, but we've seen a 74% increase in extreme rainfall in New England over about 20-some plus years. So it is changing. And you know what's interesting about this is it just isn't registering with people yet. We need to get that point across that the changes here, it's really happening. We all were very proud of our Red Sox. And of course, the Cardinals saw that Mr. Ortiz was a problem. He was batting about .750 against them. So they adapted to that situation. They walked him. We're not doing anything here on that scale. We're not adapting the way we need to now that we know that there's a 74% increase in extreme rainfall. We need to come to terms with that reality. And municipalities are facing that as we speak. That's why last Friday, just this Friday, this past Friday, I asked our network of people, our state commissioners, our coastal programs, our municipalities, to come together at Johnson & Wales University to talk about this reality and talk about what my dear departed friend, Dyra Layton, who was our deputy administrator, we just lost to a heart attack this summer, he used to talk about the community of practice around these issues and how we move the community along and build capability across our network. And indeed, we're starting to talk about that. So on our level, the regional level, we're trying to engage with communities and ask these questions about community of practice and ask the question of how to get to scale. Now, what we found at that conference, which is in one level very exciting, is there's a lot of work being done to help make decisions at the local level. Decision support tools are being developed. They're in the cloud, they're on the computer, they're this and that. Very strong numbers of tools. There's also been tremendous work done on mapping and LiDAR mapping and getting very granular information so that you can actually use these tools in a local decision-making sort of way to help local boards and councils and city councils engage in these conversations. But that said, we still only have 5% of the communities in New England who have engaged in vulnerability planning to this point. So we have a huge challenge at my level. How do we get these communities churning and defining their problem? Because if they don't define their problem, there won't be the groundswell of support needed to move this issue at the state and national level. So we're committed to doing that. It turns out, just fortuitously, President was thinking on the same wavelength we were and announced, of course, the executive order on adaptation. Indeed, we knew that was coming and we knew what the call to action would be. He said specifically, support local climate resilient investment by removing barriers and counterproductive policies and modernizing programs. That's a call right to my desk to get going with my partners in New England to get those things done. Now, the action plan pushed even further. It asked that, and to paraphrase, managing the risk of climate change requires deliberate preparation, close cooperation, and coordinated planning. So we know here in New England we got a challenge because coordinated planning is not something we specialize in this region. We still have that home rule ethic. It's deep and it's very it's held with great passion and concern for at the local level. But we know that somehow we've got to get a regional framework going on a lot of these issues. The example I shared with people on Friday was Waterbury, Connecticut. Waterbury, Connecticut is a small city in Vermont, somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000. It was devastated with the flooding from Irene. Being resilient, communities in Vermont are by definition resilient just because they've had to deal with extreme weather throughout their history. But that said, they went to work on this and they said, well, where could the flooding go? And it turns out there's a floodplain in Duxbury down the river. Oh, I'm sorry, upstream just a little bit. And they said, well, Duxbury could rehab this area and allow the water to go there, but of course it's Duxbury. It's not Waterbury. So how do they even engage in that conversation and ask Duxbury to make a sacrifice for the greater good of Waterbury and communities downstream? So these are challenges we have to start to deal with at our level and grind away on and build that momentum that's needed across the country to achieve what Bill's talking about. And we're very excited to be doing that. We think New England's a great place to do it. People in New England are practical and adaptive and thoughtful. Ideology is not really the way government works here in New England. You might find some places in rural New England where there's still some hard-edged thinking about politics and conservatism and liberalism and the like. But the bottom line is, in our New England communities, we come together to try to solve problems and build great communities. That's why I believe it's really the most special place in all of America, because we do have that pragmatic, practical mindset, and we will go to work on this. So I'm very excited to be here to pledge, and on behalf of the administrator, congratulate you on this start. She has mandated to each of us that we engage with our communities in a very thoughtful, direct way, bring a variety of tools and toolboxes to the problem, use our information, our analytical ability to deal with it. So much has been accomplished on the environment in this country, but it would be a shame if climate change actually pushed that progress back. And I mean, look at the infrastructure we need to protect. Look at the habitats we need to conserve. Look at the essentially the whole system that has to be conserved as we go forward. I don't think we've even understand the problem wholly yet. I think it's going to take a lot of dialogue with communities to do that. But when we do, I suspect we will get that political response. Again, I emphasize what Senator Whitehouse said to us, is that when you have the Catholic Church, GE, Coke, Dow, Pfizer, you have the Department of Defense, you have the environmental movement all over the country, you have labor, you have all those entities coming together and saying, climate change is real, we must do something about it. You gotta think at some point the political situation in Washington will change, and there will be this opportunity to move forward on a larger, more robust, at-scale response to climate change, especially around the issue of adaptation and preparedness. So I thank you all for the few minutes, and Bill, congratulations.